very special episode, and I'm really kind of nervous for it. I will be introducing my special guest, Daryl Watters.
Hello. Good morning. Or sorry, evening.
Good evening, yes.
Yeah, good evening.
I'm going to introduce you real quick.
Okay.
From the bio that you sent me.
Mm-hmm.
Daryl served 39 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, both Reg Force and Reserves, the dark side.
Yeah.
Daryl has, this is intense. Daryl has 4 tours, Isreal, Syria in 1980 and 1999. And this is really exciting because we're going to learn a lot about something that wasn't taught to us. We're going to learn about the intensity that was United Nations and the severity of the Middle East tensions, I believe, we'll get from that. Landscape, I'm sure we'll grab from this. And probably confusion and intensity.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. You were also doing training exercises in Germany, Norway, and Jamaica. And was that Cold War related?
The Germany and Norway was. Jamaica's not. It was supporting the Jamaican Defense Force with the agreement that the Canadian military has with them.
Oh wow! And I know about this. You're one line.
No, I'm actually an operator.
Oh, and what is that?
I'm a radio operator.
Radio.
By trade, by name. I've gone from radio operator to SIG-UP, which you may have heard.
That's right.
Then ACES Corps.
Okay.
But I started out as a RAD-UP.
Wow.
So when I was in Jamaica, I was there with the, I can't remember what it's, we were there with the satellite railing, which we call the Big MT. So the big satellite dish you might have seen in Afghanistan and that.
That's
Right.
right.
For all your comms back to Canada,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was there in Jamaica for to set up.
Oh wow, intense.
Supporting the other guys that came in to helping out the Jamaican Defense Force, building shacks, doing some training and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And so get this, 39 years, everyone, perspective. How many forces did you work with? Probably countless. You worked with members across all of the United Nations, NATO, I'm sure.
United
all the
Nations,
countries.
all of our Five Eyes.
Wow.
So a lot of different United Nations, Five Eyes. I did cross exercises between us and the British.
Oh, fantastic.
Because the
You
signal.
play I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Do you play gay chicken?
No, I have not played that one.
Okay. Google it if you don't know what it is.
Okay, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. So so a lot of different nationalities, and especially with the UN,
Yeah,
dealing with the different ones
fantastic.
there, right? Any country you can think of. You know, like, well, when I was in the Golan, those times it was the Austrians, Polish, and the Finns were the main, and us were the main 4 people of the UN force.
Wow.
But then, of course, you're always getting the military observer officers and all the OPs, right? The offensive positions, observation positions. Sorry, so they could be from any country.
Wow. No, it doesn't matter. Norway, Greece.
Yeah.
Who else is part of that? We got UK.
Yeah,
obviously.
UK, you could
United
be anywhere.
States.
China, you
yeah.
know, Sweden. Like, there were officers from all over the place.
Yeah,
right?
I experienced that too in Kabul. First time, like, I was like, wow, there's so many officers.
Yeah.
And they all got the gushy go with me.
Yeah, they got all the observation
That's right.
jobs and stuff. It's good.
What was your rank?
I retired as a warrant officer.
Awesome, fantastic.
Yeah.
Troop man. I love that. When I was in the military, that was my goal for sure, to become a warrant. But we're going to get into our first question, and it's going to lead into a lot. So I'm excited for you, the listener, to enjoy this, and hopefully we're going to change perspectives and have a clear understanding between the veteran servicemen and women, police servicemen and women, and the sacrifices mentally and family that are made doing these amazing feats. And I think we all love what we did. We love our brothers and sisters in arms, but it's intense and it drains us and it changes us and it makes it harder to become a civilian. So anyway, hopefully we can help people get jobs because of this. But first question, we kind of got into it. Tell us about your service. I want you can lay it into a few questions here. I'm going to say it all again. Tell us about your service. What made you a soldier? What was your trait that was best quality that you loved about your soldiering skills? And what kept you motivated in such violent areas in the world, defending the border from the Israeli border from Syria and Egypt, because of the Yom Kippur War, was it not? 1973?
Yes, then you had the war, 67 war. And
that's right. So it was quite violent.
Yeah.
And then peace didn't happen after sanctions were made by the United Nations.
Still, yeah, they're still technically at war like Korea
Yes,
is, right?
100%.
It's just a peace greedy to separate, right? So it's still
Wow, intense.
same thing as.
You take over now. Thank you.
Okay, I started as my father's military, so that's where it came from. My father did 38 years in Air Force,
Wow.
Canadian military. He started out as Air Force, and we had the integration in around 68, 69, came to Canadian Armed Forces, so he continued there, right? So my dad did 38 years. So that's kind of where it comes from. So
Did you have a strict home?
It was a good home. I'm not going to say it was really strict, but you know when not to do things and when to do things, right?
Thank you for sharing.
Okay. So from there, I got into I started out as a reservist, communication reservist in Ottawa. At that time, it was called 763 Communication Regiment. So I did 5 years there before I transferred over to the regular force in '84. So I went from '79 to '84 as a reservist in Ottawa. Did my first UN tour in the
wow.
Golan Heights as an 18-year-old turning 19 over there, not have a clue where I was at going.
Wow.
So it was good. It was a very good experience. I learned a lot during that first tour as a person who's only 19 and really hasn't seen the world before, right?
Did you have workup training?
Back then, we, because we were reservists, we went to Saint Hubert and did some training, make sure our medical and all that stuff was up to date, like first aid training and all that. And we were supposed to work in an area that we would be doing when we went over there. Didn't quite work out that way, but spent 6 weeks in Saint Hubert before taking our flight over to Damascus. At that time, we flew out of Trenton to Lar, when Lar was still open, then into Damascus.
Is Lar
Syria.
Cyprus?
No, Lar was Germany.
Oh,
right?
Germany. Okay.
When Germany was still open, that was the
Right.
transfer point, right, for
Okay.
Lar. First time I ever been on a plane, that's where I went.
Oh wow, amazing.
Yeah.
And where are you from? Where are you from? Where's your hometown so we can have perspective for that?
I was born in Ottawa,
Okay.
but I don't really consider any place a hometown as being a military brat. It's basically where
Oh wow.
I consider, right? So, like right now, I consider Kingston my home. I've been here for so long. This is the longest I've ever lived in one place is Kingston, so I kind of consider Kingston my home, even though I was born in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, amazing.
So, yeah, after that tour, that was my first tour and experience with United Nations. You know, that was only 6 years after the war, so there's still a lot of tension there. After the '73 war, still.
What did it feel like? Like, stay right there. And what did your 18-year-old self feel? Was the excitement or the nervousness? How was the chain of command? The smells? What brings you into that?
Well, it was quite different for being that age to see something so different from our own world. Like, basically a third world country in Syria. Israel was a little more advanced on their side. It's more of the help that they were getting from the Americans. But also at that time, Syria was being backed by the Russians during the Cold War, so there was a lot of Russian military equipment within Syria. So it was quite different to see some things up personal and close, flying helicopter, the MiGs aircraft, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's like Cold War, badass Afghanistan. We learned craziness while
Yeah.
you were there.
Vice actually seeing it on television or something, right?
Yeah, that's why, and that was me when I was a kid.
Yeah, so it was, and seeing the differences between the two, all the different cultures and how, even though, how am I going to put it this way? The Arab people I found very friendly. Like you're either rich or you're poor. It's the way the dictatorship,
Mm-hmm.
is a sad. When I was there, it was dad who was in charge. Like every time I went there, it was his dad was in charge, right? So I went there like say 4 different times between '80 and '99, but his dad was always in charge when I went there. So it was quite different. Very friendly people. I found the Syrians very proud. Same as the Israelis. A country that's really dictated by their religion. I thought more than the Syrian side for the way they run their country.
Politics in Syria, I feel dividing politics, like Muslim Brotherhood, Qaeda was even there, I believe, at that time, working in the background.
Well, and you still had your Christians and your Greek Orthodox and everything in the Syrian side.
Oh wow!
So there was different. Like the big town for us to go to all the time was Damascus, the capital, because the UN headquarters was in Damascus, so we could go there a lot. That was part of our travel.
What was the convoy?
Well, it was not really a convoy because we could travel in one vehicle, whatever, because there's no really fighting going on. The UN was accepted for what they had to do there, right? Just observing.
Yep, maintaining peace.
Maintaining peace and observing the area of separation, right?
That's right. Wow.
So we had free access to go into Damascus from where we had to go because I was actually working in a town called Quneitra, which was right at the area of separation between Syria and Israel, and the Canadian camp was like a couple of kilometers away, and it was called Camp Zawani, which was an old army base that the Canadians took over and had to rebuild. And when it was first opened, it was called Camp Roofless because the buildings were there, but there was no roofs, right?
That's right. I love that.
So they had to build roofs and everything. So that first tour when I was there, you could see a lot of the old camp and everything that was there. But in the town of Quneitra that I was in, it was a town, I believe it was populated between 40 and 50,000 Syrians. And the town was leveled except for all of the churches and mosques. They were left standing, but everything else was leveled. And we were there working as a radio operator. We had a manual relay station, and we called it Quebec House. So that's where I worked for that particular tour, right? So we were on our own.
Wow.
So, and as UN, we don't have weapons or anything like that.
That's right.
But there's a few times it got intense where the local Syrians are a little etchy on themselves, and it's dark at night, and a few times the AK-47 came inside the Jeep, stuck it in your face, until they realized you were UN, and then they back away and run away, right?
Yeah. But, wow, 18-year-old, no weapon, AK in the window.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So and here we go on this is really neat you're sharing. This is 18-year-old from Ottawa, never flew, minimal workup training. So difference between us right there is my workup training was very much prepared for Afghanistan because they had your generation who served in UN peacekeeping missions, Somalia, Rwanda, Bosnia as well, led up to the early 2002, Kabul, Afghanistan, the Delta Force badasses, and then we move into what I encountered was the end of the war. So there was like legit workup training.
Yeah. We
got the smells, we got the sounds. You were just thrown into the fire. Yeah. So really cool.
So that was, overall it was a good experience. That I think learning a different culture on both sides, like learning the Syrian culture, learning the Israeli culture. It got me so interested for the rest of my life in the military, and even that I was always buying books, always reading on, can there ever be peace here between them and the Palestinians and all that? Because yes, they've made peace agreements with Jordan and Egypt, in the amount of times that I've been there, but it's still the us and them mentality. Right. And of course, Palestine was the country before the Western world gave it and made it Israel, right? So there's a lot of tension there, and we don't talk 2 or 3 years history like we have in Canada. It's 4, 5, 6,000 years of history you talk about when you get into that area.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's quite different. So from there, when I came back from that, again, I was still a reservist doing some contract work, right, or Class A, Class B stuff. Then I transferred to the regular force in '84 as a radio operator. So I came here to Kingston, was at the Signal Regiment. From there, it's where I did a couple trips to Germany. One was working with the Brits on a cross exercise. It's quite different, seeing how their military works and our military works.
Yes,
as signal hunters. It was a very good experience. It was 3 weeks long or something like that.
What was one of the major differences that you noticed, just on that one example?
our training was more diversified. As me as an operator, I had to learn, you know, okay, I got to drive the vehicle, got to maintain the generator, fuel the generator,
Fire picket.
I do transmission, you know, and receive comms, do Morse code. What I found out there working with the Brits is they're a little more specialized, like I guess the British are. We had one guy that all he did was look after the generators, right?
Wow.
It was a specialty to them for Morse code, so they learned their radios. Morse code was a specialty in our military back then in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. It was not. It was part of your trade. You learned Morse code.
Wow, amazing. That's because our numbers are so low.
Yeah.
So we need to be
Yeah.
as diversified as possible.
Yeah. So, and
Cool, good pickup.
more, I think we're more, because of the type of equipment we've had all through the years, we're more intuitive to try to fix something.
Yeah, because we're getting it from the Brits and it's broken.
Yeah. So that was one of the couple of first things I saw was that, ooh, that's a little different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was good working with them, but it was different and seeing, even though we're in, you know, West Germany, part of the, you know, NATO, protecting it all, how far back they were on the priority list for rail cars to moving their armored vehicles and everything. It took a while to go 30 kilometers, right? And you can't
Wow.
move them when you gotta put them on the train, your last priority. So when you get there, you get there.
Holy smokes. Yeah, not like ours. It's where end X, there's a train ready,
Yeah.
and then the support crew that,
Yeah.
you know, had to volunteer, the no hooks they got on the
Yeah.
on the tracks and pulled the labs in.
And then the other exercise I did over there was, I think it was Reforger it's called, I can't remember. I know there's Fall X in the fall, and I think Reforger was the January, February, and I went over in January and February.
Mm-hmm.
So worked there, and that was, it's quite different going to drive
Was it
around.
cold?
It wasn't a cold, but, you know, yeah, it was, you know, there's snow days, but it wasn't like cold like here, like when we're hitting up to Petawawa and Beeford,
Oh, yeah.
some of these places here.
Shiloh, man.
Shiloh, oh yeah, I spent a lot of time in Shiloh too.
Oh, yeah. All right, buddy. Yeah.
So it's cold, yeah, but I didn't find it as cold, but it's still that dampness cold, right? So it's the country is different.
Kind of off topic, but I
Mhm.
find this very interesting, and I hope it's still relevant. You're in Germany. Did you feel the guilt of World War II in the population? What was that like? Real quick. I know it could be a rabbit
No, I
hole.
never felt the guilt in the population there of the people that I met,
Mm-hmm.
but going on when you did have time to do some sightseeing and going to some of the camps that don't exist anymore and seeing that, it just throws you for a loop, right?
Wow.
So I went to Belsen, which is not there anymore. It's just massive graves and everything, right? So that was quite different seeing
Yeah,
stuff
absolutely.
like that. You know, and later on in some of my other tours in the Golan, I got to see more of Germany once the wall fell. So that was
Wow.
quite a bit different thing.
So you saw Germany right after the wall fall.
About
when East.
18 months after.
No way.
19 months after.
Amazing.
So that was
Contrast.
quite to be able to nice to actually get into Berlin, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Because when I did that exercise with the Brits, they manned Checkpoint Alpha, which was on the border between East and West Germany.
Oh, cool.
So I got to see that checkpoint.
Yeah.
But that, you know, then that's it. You can't go any further,
No.
right? Because we're not one of the ones that are allowed to go into West Berlin. So that was like 96 or 86 or so. So we went back in 91. So January 91 is when I went back on a holiday from UN tour.
Oh, wow.
And got into Berlin and seeing the differences, right? When you're going through the countryside on the train that used to have painted windows so you couldn't see the countryside.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing the countryside, seeing where roads and town just
Oh,
and
wow.
stop, nothing there anymore, right? Got into Berlin and then you see where the wall used to be because they took most of it down. They kept a little bit for
Tourism.
history aspect of it, right? The Brandenburg Gate, they were rebuilding that. That was the big thing, the Brandenburg Gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was all being cleaned up. That's where a lot of it happened, the fall of, in November of '89, when the wall fell. It was all around the Brandenburg Gate.
Oh, okay.
So that's where they were fixing that all up. All the statues that were on the top had been taken down to be cleaned up. And they were going to flip them around. Or I can't remember the name of the street that's came into the Brandenburg Gate, but it's a big honking street, like a big important one.
Oh yeah.
And it was also where the tomb of the unknown soldier for the Russians was, and which got me. It was actually in West Berlin, not East Berlin. The tomb of the unknown Russians, tomb of the unknown soldier was actually in West Berlin, not East Berlin, during the Cold War, and they were able to guard it as a Russian soldiers, right?
Yeah. Well, that's important, and all countries can respect that.
Yeah.
Really amazing. Wow.
So going back, so I got it after my. I had to go do trades training here in Kingston, radio operator, because as a reservist, even though I was comm reserved, we didn't teach Morse code. So I did my
yeah, that's top secret. You can't do that willy-nilly, right?
So I did my trades training here in Kingston, did the Morse code, and then got posted to the Signal Regiment. At that time, it was called the 1st Canadian Signal Regiment, 1 CSR. So that's where I spent my first 4 years of the military. Did the tour, with the Brits, gone to the exercise with the Canadians and the Americans and all that during the January of '86 or '87. I can't remember which it was for the NATO exercise. At that time, I also went to Norway and did I was at Alba. Is it Allied Mobile Force? I think it was called AMF at that time. So
Holy smokes.
So Norway is one of the places that we'd help defend, and I went there with as I mentioned before, we had the satellite rear link. Back at that time, it was HF comms, high frequency comms. So we went over there with that stuff.
Oh wow, intense. Really
so
cool.
Going over there with that
atmosphere, right?
Putting up our antennas that we needed to do to talk back to Canada.
That's right. How tall were the antennas?
We had two that we called log periodic, so they're up in the air and they got like the pointy elements. They were 70 feet high.
Holy smokes.
And I think it was like 70 feet for the elements, and the first element was like 4 feet and the last one was like 100 feet or something like that.
Since you're in Norway assisting them probably fighting the Russians? Securing northern?
Yeah, as that northern part, right?
Exciting.
As
Did you
part
have
of NATO.
security for your camps? Because it's like top secret stuff. Did you have sentry posts? And
No, we were right on the airport.
Oh wow.
One of the military. We were actually
Fantastic.
in Sola, Norway, right? So we have to.
You had the security right there.
Yeah, we have to. With that type of equipment back then, you had to stay near the airport. So we're always set up near.
Yeah, get through power source.
Yeah, power source, but the space to put up the antennas. Because besides those log periodics, we had two other antennas, which we would call a sloping V. So you're going up a 70-foot mast, and you got a piece of wire going out like 120 feet to make a V look.
Oh wow.
So you had two of those. So and then we had another directional antenna. So we were putting up 5 antennas just to do the comms back to Canada, right?
Wow.
So it was a good time though, good learning experience.
Yeah,
Again.
young men and this is there's so much. And so before I go to my next question, tempo. Have you noticed the tempo maintaining? Because it sounds like your career was just filled with as many courses and tours as you can cram in. Whereas in now, I feel the same thing is happening. So I feel like they always say, "Oh, high readiness is over," but it actually hasn't changed.
Well, I found at the beginning of my career, most of it was exercises that we're going to. We were doing a lot of exercises within Canada or outside of Canada, right? Vice actually going on operations, unless you were doing a UN tour. And at that time, for another rank, we had UNDOF, what I went to, Syria and Israel, and the other one, was, of course, was Cyprus, right? Those were the two main ones that we went to. The rest of the time, you're doing exercises.
Okay, so keep you busy. Wicked opportunities. I think those are awesome exercises. Germany. Did you ever meet Semenko? And the reason I say that, he was the regimental sergeant major of 2VP. I met him, and he's the brother of Dave Semenko, the famous enforcer for Gretzky. So he got to go to Germany. As soon as he got to battalion, finished DB1 because they thought he would be an amazing hockey player, but he was a terrible hockey player. He didn't see it at all. But anyway, so that was the beginning of his career.
The biggest guy I remember when it comes to Eurotrade at the Patricias, when I was doing my combat leaders course in Wainwright, there was a guy named Sergeant Steptis.
Oh, big name even.
Steptis. And we all call him Step Dog. Very big man.
Oh wow.
Very intimidating, right?
Oh, naturally. There was gentlemen that would make my hair on the back of my neck just raise. And they have a unique way.
So from there, that's just the first couple of years of my career, right?
Jesus.
So lots of exercise, a lot of training, right? We had all those rendezvous exercises in Wainwright we used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on a bunch of those.
I love Wainwright. I love the training area.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. So I went to 85, 87, and 89 with those. So that's big exercises, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we started getting into Aussie and all that other stuff that started going on then. And from there, so going from a big unit of 600 people, getting posted to a det in Regina, Saskatchewan of 15.
Oh, cool. That's fantastic.
That was a big learning curve, like going this small, right?
Did you like it better?
I found it hard at first. I was just newly into my career and I was not expecting something like that after just being in for 5 years, right?
So a lot of immediate eyes on and pressure.
Yeah, and that time we were doing something called Emergency Government Network. So it was all to do with the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
If a bomb went off or something like that, you probably heard of them, all the bunkers that we used to have in Canada.
Oh yeah, Shiloh has a bunker that we do PT on.
Yeah, so Shiloh had them, Borden had one, Red Deer had one, DeBert had one. Those are the
Bordage.
And the Diefenbunker in Ottawa, right, was the big one.
Oh yeah,
which I worked in as a reservist for a bit, so that was pretty good.
Top secret stuff.
So that type of work I did in Regina was to do with all the Cold War stuff, right? If a bomb had come to work.
Spooling up, getting everything ready.
Yeah, just to see the airflow with the way the radiation would go and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was there with a vehicle that was doing radio and teletype together. So you can either talk on the voice or you can send your messages by teletype over the HF comms.
Oh wow, cool. Because technically the atmosphere too heavy for your higher frequency even to get through.
Yeah, it was all low frequency or high
really
frequency,
neat.
right? Yeah.
Cool.
So there, and then when I was there, went to the Golan Heights again. So I went there in September of '90. Just a normal thing. Just see the difference from the first tour to the second tour. Like the first one I was there in '80, October '80 to April '81. Second tour I get there in September '90.
Well, cool experience, lucky.
Yeah, so I go back again and see the differences, see how much the Syrians have kept their side of the AOS as a monument and not developed it, where the Israelis have developed all their sides, put in irrigation to grow bananas and peaches and whatever, every type of fruit you can think of, they developed their side of it, right? So that was pretty interesting.
Wow, that is super interesting because it shows you the belief, I guess the sturdiness of the Israeli people to thrive and not just be stepped on, because their history is super intense for that. So you can't blame them for their super intense border security. But I think like Palestine, did I say that right? It's Palestine, yeah?
Yeah, Palestine, yes.
Pakistan was southern border of Pakistan. I always anyway, Palestine, if they had it a monument, that means they're holding that resentment way longer, which is neat. So am I right in that? Do you feel that or no?
Yeah, because you're talking 1,000 years of history there, right?
It's
So
no
it's
joke.
not the same. So, and again, it was still us and them.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, they still did not recognize each other, right, as countries, right? Syria and Israel, right? So they still not recognized. At that time, there was a treaty with Egypt, but it took a long time to cross into Egypt, even if you're going.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Even right now,
Yeah.
Your Singletons, your boys, they got pot shot at during the ISIS push in Egypt, actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's that area now is just, it's terrible to see what's happened when you bring up ISIS. All the history that has been destroyed in Iraq and in Syria, of all that stuff, ancient historical sites that have been destroyed. It's just unbelievable that I saw that are now gone.
And
right?
you saw these.
Yeah.
So
some
you
of them
have
in the Syrian,
amazing
right? Yeah.
connection.
So they're gone, right? So
That is heartbreaking.
yeah. So while I was there, that tour, that's when the first Gulf War was on. So when they had Desert Storm. So for us, we saw it changing a bit in where we were, but it wasn't until, I can give you the exact date, the 21st of January, 1991, was the first Scud attacks in Israel from Saddam from Iraq, right? They hit Tel Aviv and Haifa that night, and a spot near us called Zifat, which was 25 to 30 kilometers from our base, and it was the main hospital. If our doctors couldn't help you, that's the hospital we would go to, was in that town.
Wow, and they struck the hospital, so it was obviously
in that area. So
wow.
So that was So that's one of the things I kind of came real to, because that's the first time I've actually been issued a real gas suit, not a train one.
Oh wow.
Your atropine injectors, being
Yeah.
issued those, like, never done it before, right?
No.
So it was.
And we train, for people out there who are listening, we train with like little sponges that are covered in grease, and we have fake needles that we pretend to jab into our legs or somebody else, or go through fake procedures of not debussing,
Decamming.
decamming, or just getting sprayed. Because if you had a gas, we have to strip our suits.
Yeah.
We only got 48 hours. We can stay in them with our gas masks and the containers that we have.
Yeah.
It's vicious. So to do this for real, perspective out there, that's fucking for reals, man. You got shark eyes. You're ready for fucking war.
Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah, and if you're the injectors, you can think of an atropine, but EpiPen thing. The same idea as an EpiPen. The injectors we use to help to counteract any type of chemical attack.
So never want nerve agent. We joked, and I'm going to tell this joke because perspective. All the guys in my sections, of all the sections, platoons, and companies, said if gas ever happened, we just fucking pull the guns on ourselves. Because fuck that. That's intense nerve agent. No joke. The suits don't protect.
Only to a certain point, right?
Yep, that's right. Anyway, we digress with that rabbit hole.
Yeah, but so that was quite different at that time, right?
Yeah.
Having with you all the time, not being able to travel anywhere, or if you're going somewhere, you're in pairs and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because you still have to do your job while you're there.
That's right.
So
you signed that line of unlimited liability.
You still got to do whatever your job is. You still got to do it. So you're traveling around doing the countryside, doing your job. You still got to do carrying all that stuff with you.
Wow.
Which, we're not really used to it, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. That mission before self, and that's really cool. And I think that's a pretty special skill that we all learned, and it's crucial to our success.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is. It was quite different during that time. You could see how it affected certain people and didn't. Some people it didn't affect them at all. Other people it affected them quite a bit. Scared. You could see it in their faces and stuff, because during approximately 6 to 8 week period from that time in January till the end of the war, we had 33 scud alarms. Not saying there was always a scud coming that time, but there's 33 times that we went to the bunkers, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that piques you.
Yeah.
Gets you going.
Yeah. So that was a tense learning period.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was, there was other stuff that you saw there that was how much the Arab world really does hate the Jewish people, right? Mm-hmm. It's the Hebrews that that's one of the first times I really saw it.
Just true hate.
True hate, because
disdain, I should say.
Because I had happened to go. There's a town called Tiberias that we used to go to for supper every once in a while when we were able to and have time off. And I was in there one night, and an Israeli soldier had just got off his 30-day duty in the Gaza Strip, and his girlfriend was one of the waitresses at the bar, and he wouldn't eat there because it was an Arab was the cook, and he was in his mind that Arab was going to poison him and kill him. I'm not, because he's an Arab and I'm an Israeli. Wouldn't eat there.
Wow.
So that's when it really hit.
Whoa, that's rooted fear.
Yeah.
That's rooted distrust. That's rooted disdainment. That's everything. Wow.
And that's when I really got into how it's bred not to trust each other, right, from generations to generations. It's not like, us having our own opinion at our age to kind of make them. They were told, nope, you're not doing that, right?
Yep. That's right, immediately.
Yeah. So,
Excuse me.
so from there, so that was a tour, and I actually extended and did an extra 6 months there because all my buddies that were supposed to replace me were all in Qatar and Bahrain, so there was no one to replace me, so I stayed there for a year, right? Which was nice.
Yeah, good for the bank.
Yeah, so I counted as two separate 6-month tours, right? So being there for 1 year straight.
Yeah, and Canadians don't do that very often. Americans do all the time.
Yeah, but you had to ask for it and all that, but I was a single person and no bills, right?
Yeah, man, full of testosterone.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So back from that, and then so I was in Regina then, and then I got posted to Gagetown. Did a bit of time at the Comm Squadron. Then I asked to go over to the Royal Canadian Regiment, to RCR that was there. And that's probably one of the places I met one of the best mentors of my career.
Awesome.
He was a warrant officer. Can't remember the Royal. He was our patrol warrant as a 6th platoon.
Mm-hmm.
And one, as you mentioned before, like try to keep up, can't do this in PT. He was one of the first guys that, I know we're not all at the same level, but all I ask you to do, if we're going to run for 30 minutes out and 30 minutes back, you do the same thing, no matter how far you get and how far you get back.
Wow, yeah.
And,
nice. True leadership.
Yeah. He stuck up for us. We were always seemed to be getting all the crappy jobs. The sergeant, the company sergeant major always seemed to pick on 6th platoon for all the shit jobs.
Oh, that's right. Because he's not going to give it to his own boys.
Yeah. So one day he stood up right there and go, "No, we're not doing it." So it cost him some, but we ended up doing it.
Woo-hoo.
So I worked with him there for a bit. Met him later on in life. Here in Kingston, I was at another posting. He had taken his commission by then and became a captain.
Awesome. I love hearing that. I love when dudes do that.
The sad part is, his demons got to him, and he's no longer with us. But
that's really sad.
Yeah.
And when did that happen? And do you remember his full name, just so we can?
Brad Elms.
Brad Elms.
Trying to remember when that was. Maybe 2010.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember it because the Kingston Mills locks. One morning they were saying a guy was in there with a pistol or some type of weapon and don't go in, and it was him taking his life. So.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, there's a few guys like that I have that.
This is really interesting, and I'm going to break protocol. This is what the hockey game's for. If you're listening or watching this, this is crazy, the epidemic and the strain that we have been put onto. Adam Eckhart, he's my friend as well. He killed himself in Suffield, alone in his apartment. It's a real thing, and we suffer because of intensities that we saw and intensities that we're trained. We are intense individuals, and yes, we love life and see everything and have amazing adventures, but these adventures come at a price. So, back to you. Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you. Because he's one of 5 or 6 that people I've known quite well that have done that, and so it's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah. So that was good. Really wasn't crazy about the posting at the time.
Was he very fit? Let's talk about.
Oh, extremely fit.
Yeah.
Extremely fit. The Iron Man competition in Petawawa.
Yes, very famous.
Yeah. So he's done it many times. So,
Wow.
And always in the top 5 or so, right?
Beast. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's a happy memory. Cool. Let's go off on that one. That's great.
So from there, I came back to Kingston, and just again your normal exercises that we're doing, training. Then we start getting in. I'll regress back to when I was in 2 RCR, because that's when Bosnia then came out. So 2 RCR had just come back from Cyprus, doing their normal tour, and then they get picked up. They sent a rifle company over to Bosnia. Like,
wow.
It's like, you're going to be home, and that whole unit did like 3 tours back to back to back, right, of parts of it. So it was stressful for some guys that I knew there because they were gone, right?
Gone, yeah.
So after the original guys, because the original guys going to Bosnia was the guys that were in Lar, in Baden, right, in Germany. They were the infantry companies that were there. Went over to Bosnia first, and because a buddy of mine, Phil Leclerc, he started out as a RADA, went int, became an int officer, and the last time I talked to him, about 3 years ago, before he got posted down to Tampa Bay, had already done 15 tours.
Holy smokes.
Because he got involved with the human inside of it.
Yeah, whoa.
So he was up to 15 different tours in his career, and at that time it might have been 25 years in the military. So you figure how many months time he's been out of country with a family at home.
Training. Alone too. Training to get ready to deploy, then deploying. And then think about the time period that you were in. You didn't have Skype. And if he's doing humid, he doesn't have Skype for family because it's OPSEC.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so he, lot
Yeah.
tours.
Wow.
So that was good. So that was kind of busy there with the 2RCR, getting them ready to go, help training them. So when I come back, get posted here to Kingston, same thing again, not going a lot of spots, but I always seem to be on the end of the pointy end of training the people that were going over to either Bosnia or Afghanistan, especially with Op Apollo, the first one we started going to.
2002?
2002, because I'd gone from the Signal Regiment over to Electronic Warfare Squadron, which was a squadron of the Signal Regiment until 2000. It became its own unit. So 2002 was the first time that unit ever deployed on its own and went to Op Apollo, and we had sent 30 people or something like that, right? 20, around 30 people. We actually sent a RAD up that time. The only one that ever went after that is saying, no, we need the positions for the comm research guys and the end guys. But so for that rest of that 3 or 4 years that I was still with them, that's all I did was train people to go. Because I was in a position with that trade, they weren't going to send us anywhere, right?
That's right. So
we're
you
training
take up other leadership and it's crucial.
Leadership, role. So that, doing that, and that was good. It was hard because wanted to serve the country outside, outside of the country and that. So that was it was hard that way. But some of the stuff that they were learning to do, which by the time you got there, I'd been totally involved with the EOD teams and stuff like that, right? Working with the INT guys and the comm research and the EOD guys working together, right? That was it was just starting around then, right?
You got the comm chatter. You can totally help out. You see those, two fams chilling on the side of the road with their MVGs. They're not digging for farming reasons.
Yeah. So
really
that was all starting there. So I had a few guys I know did 3 or 4 tours. Did 3 or 4 tours from that, right?
You're part of that, man, and that's really special. And I hope you realize how cool that is.
Well, good. And from there, I went over to the Peace Support Training Center. That's here in Kingston, and our job was to train people. As you said, we never had any training before we went. You didn't do stuff. So the Peace Support Training Center was more teaching you the culture and the culture of the countries you were going into, some dynamics that way, what the countryside could be and stuff, and aspects like that. So they were trying to give you a little bit of history to where you were going to. So
which is crucial because we as Canadians have to uphold a really high standard of not being ignorant. And I use the bad word on purpose.
So when I first got there, we were only doing a couple of courses. So you had the military observer course, which was the officers that go and do that particular job, right?
Yeah, and outposts.
And then we had our individual deployment. So guys that don't do training with their unit but are still going somewheres, we would come there and train them with for the week stuff that they had to do. Teach them the culture and the landscaping and what you can expect and what you can't expect. And while I was there for that 4 years, of course, Afghanistan blew up, got even more and more. So we got into, when you were there in Afghanistan, you probably heard of Rana FM.
Not off my top of my head.
Okay, so there's a radio station called Rana FM, propaganda, right? So we really got into the human in courses after a while, teaching a lot of those courses. CIMIC, you know, so your
I've heard
civilian, the civilian and your military working together, your psychological operations and stuff like that. So we built a radio station and became Rana FM. So it was a proper, you know, so it was to talk to the Afghanistan people through our Canadian stuff, but the radio station was actually here in Kingston, broadcasted in Afghanistan.
No
right?
way.
Yeah. So I helped build that radio station
Whoa.
with some stuff.
Was it like intense propaganda? Like, hey, enjoy delicious Snyder's sausages. They're delicious for you and have no pork product.
It was actually Afghanis were hired to talk in their languages they need to do to talk about and do things, right? And so it's just one of those propaganda stuff, right? One of the things
support
support,
NATO.
yeah, stuff like that, right? So that was there. So that was an interesting.
Probably used in Medusa to be like, hey, get the fuck out of this town.
Yeah. So it was good when that got on the ground, and that was quite different because not knowing what we were doing, we actually brought a British guy in that had built one for Bosnia, and another lady that came from Ukraine that had helped build the one in Bosnia too, for whatever country had done that one.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot there too.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And at the same time, because I was the only guy that had been in the UNDOF, after a while I started to, even though my job was not to teach, it was to support, make sure all the classrooms and everything worked. I ended up teaching a lot of the stuff for the people that were going to the
fantastic.
UNDOF, because there was no one else there that knew what is the way I did, right?
Yep. Wow.
So
Practical,
yeah.
first-hand experience, which is the most, or the best teacher I find.
yeah. So that was good. And that was probably my most enjoyable posting in my whole career.
Wow.
Was the 4 years I was there. I was the first SIG op to ever go to that unit. So I kind of set the standard.
Yeah.
Pretty high as far as I can say, right?
Yeah.
I did a lot. Came up, you know, the CO would come up, I want to do this, and then leave the office. And so I had to come out and figure it, like English and French presentations together, using one computer. We put in, you know, a GPS clock, so no complaints. We had one issue where the instructors were trying to teach, and they asked everybody to come back at the same time, and one individual go, my watch says this, so put GPS clocks in the school so everybody's the same, right?
That's
so
right.
you can keep the classes going and keep on time, right? But it was this responsibility that I was given, and you know, your subject matter expert, right? They took it and they listened.
Wow. Absorb the topics.
Yeah, so it was that was the most enjoyable
Really
4 years.
teaching.
Most enjoyable 4 years I had in my career was working there. Because I was also helping people go on tours, being safe, and my boss was expecting, you know, respecting what I did and giving them what I did, right?
Wow. So, and that sounds like that's a lot of creativity because if the bosses have that much trust, they give you this is what I expect, this is my mission statement. You pull from that mission statement what you need to accomplish that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat. Wow.
Yeah. So from there, I went back to the Signal Regiment, and now by that time it'd be called Canadian Forces Joint Signal Regiment.
That's when I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was mainly, you know, as again, 3 Squadron. The satellite comms is what was important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going over.
Still is. They care very much.
Yeah. So I went into 3 Squadron, supposed to go on a tour to either Afghanistan or Mirage, and I asked because of me at that time I never got into my personal life, but by that time I was a single parent, and I had custody of my son, so I was raising him. So I wanted to go on a tour, but I did not want to go over 2 school years. So the original time I was supposed to go was like in June. And then, you know, you know, you'd go over 2 school years, or no, go in May and whatever, go over 2 school years.
Yeah.
So I asked if I could go do the November tour, so I'd be gone from November and back in June. So I'm only losing. He's only got 1 school year I have to worry about. But that never panned out. My son has learning disabilities, so I wanted to leave him here in Kingston in the school board. My ex-wife was supposed to have been released by the military, but medically by that time that I wanted to go. And we're talking 2009, 2010. So that didn't happen. So I never ended up going. One of my big regrets is never actually getting over there, right?
No.
You know, like to see, like just listening to all my friends, what they had to go through, even the guys that just stayed on the camp, right?
Wow.
And it's something I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to go once to say I did something. of that magnitude compared to what are the other things I've done, right? But things happen. And
You did amazing things. Like first
yeah,
of all, say
yeah.
that.
So
Which is
things,
amazing.
so things happen for reasons, right?
Yeah, but that's intense. That's a warrior's heart you have, and that's that's hard.
Yeah. So from that, it came to the current manager wanted to post me to Ottawa as a single parent, and I said no. So I went back to the reserves and started doing those three-year Class B contracts that were quite popular. You know.
That's right.
You know, guys get to go over and do the stuff they got to do, and we're back here doing the training. So I end up going to the communication school here in Kingston, and was the platoon warrant for the PAT platoon, so the privates awaiting training.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for 4 years, and that was an extremely mental, physical, draining time. It's different when I first joined the military, 17 to 25, 90% of the guys are single. It wasn't the same. So now I'm dealing with anybody from 17 to 57 years old with all types of issues.
Wow.
You know, that they come to you with.
Well, you're dad figure. You're warned. That's right.
Yeah, so you're trying to work on it, right? And some of them, this is just a job. It's 3 years. That's not a career. They weren't looking at it that way and stuff, right? So dealt with everything imaginable you could think. Probably it comes under our disciplinary area, except for murder.
Wow.
Like, yes, suicide attempts. We were the only PAT platoon during that 4 years that I worked, never had a successful one. We've had attempted, but there was other ones because the guys were just so bored they had suicides in their platoons. One attempted murder, which is absolutely crazy. Don't, you know how that came out of. Lots of drug issues, tons and tons of drug issues, right? Just seems to be the choice today.
You know, and I've heard that. I want to go back to attempted murder because shenanigans and craziness is good stories. But when I got in Afghanistan, I was high school. I saw 9/11. I knew right there. Did my football. Did my very best. I couldn't make it football. I go to the infantry. The infantry, and it seemed like everybody when I was going in at the time was kind of like your generation. Everybody I went with was combat arms in basic.
Yeah.
So we had a good hard basic, and then we all left to Wainwright PAT platoon. We were in PAT platoon for 3 months.
Yeah.
Nobody did drugs because we were scared shitless of fucking everyone. And then we got put to Shiloh right away. And then there was motivated and we're fucking in. So it was like Afghanistan war heightened. I go through training system fast. I have good mentors who are immediately fucking battle hardened. So we know not to fuck around. But I've heard that here in the PAT platoon because it's so long because some of these courses are so specialty that they're in PAT platoon for 3 years. I was in 3 months. And I was like, this is fun. And then I'm gone. Woohoo!
Yeah. And it is that way because some of the trades that are taught, you need a certain level of security clearance to go on the course, and it takes a while.
Yeah, that's a long time.
So, so some of them are there for a long time. Could be other issues that come up, medical issues, got married, gone on parental leave. So there's all different types of issues. But the amount of issues that people join the military with, compared to when I joined the military, it was quite different too.
Wow. And
So,
is that screening? Or is that people?
well, some of it might be screening, like wasn't some of the questions maybe should have been screened better. But some I think it's just, okay, you know, I'm 35 years old, I got no job, go and join the military and you're accepted, right?
Yeah.
And you may have had your own mental health issues on the civilian side, drug side, family issues, you know, I'm not paying child support, so stuff like this, right? It was all,
Wow,
you think of it,
so much.
you can think of it, so, you know, I felt like I needed to be a social worker than a troop warrant, right? Trying to.
That's not true porn. Yeah, you're right, man. That's
So
that's,
it was by the end of the 4.5 years, I was done. I was absolutely toast.
Did you ask to go back to the Peace Support Center?
No, because I went there as a regular force, right?
So you couldn't go there as reg?
I could have gone there maybe as a reservist, but because there's only one position for SIGs, and it was a Master Corporal's position, right?
Yep, and you're past that.
Yeah.
Shit.
So, but it could have gone there maybe as an instructor or another trade, but most of the instructors were either infantry or engineers. Engineers, right?
My buddy was there, and if I stayed in, I would have gone there for sure too.
So yeah, but most of the warrant officers and instructors, most of them were warrant officers and instructors, some sergeants, but it was either int. We had one int guy, but it was mainly combat engineers and infantry, right? Because all the mine awareness training was done by the engineers, right?
Yeah, and you dealt with a lot of mines, and what was the zone called? What's the in-between zone?
Oh, the area separation?
Yeah, area separation. So on the Palestine side, there was tons of mines.
Oh yeah, there was mines. There were still minefields on both sides that were marked off, and God knows how long they've been sitting there, you know, 73, 60, who knows.
Wow.
They're marked off, and no one goes near them, right?
No.
It's like you do that training you talked about, if you see, you know, cows don't go there, or no one goes there, and the grass isn't, you know, moved or whatever, and that's, you saw that in Israel and Syria with when it came to the minefields, right?
Just pristine. Why does that look different?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of my downfall when it came to my issues, right? Being medically released, was working on that. So all the other stuff that I'd seen, that kind of compounded on it more, because, you know, I would take everything in, you know, we were told to suck it up and buttercup, right? So it was always there, and it was 24/7. Never got a break, you know, you carry your BlackBerry, you always had someone was getting in trouble, so.
Oh, and you have to, and you, listeners out there, you gotta understand that these individuals are not humans yet. They don't have the right to be out, and if they are out, it's under a leave pass, and that's so the platoon warrant is in charge of their safety, their whereabouts, and roll call, and they got to check in all the time. You're in charge of this, and that's after analysis perspective for everybody, because that's the point of this show. This individual, a true warrior who's continuously worked and take care of himself and his section mates, now has to parent people who don't know discipline, Queen's regulations and order, and the dignity that comes with being a fucking badass. And so that's some serious emotional stress. Anyway, I wanted to throw that perspective on there, because that's intense, and that's why our transition isn't fucking easy, is because of shit like this. We are fucking robots. And all of a sudden you throw these emotions of non-humans at us, it's too intense, and they start being disrespectful in the uniform that our friends died in, and our friends lost their lives to themselves because of it, and then now you have to control against shitheads who don't love it like we do. That's hard. So thank you for doing that. Intense.
Thanks. It was a hard time.
Yeah.
And so after that, so I'm getting almost near the end of my career then. I took another Class V over to the Military Intelligence School. Helped bring up 2 new buildings to code so they could teach their secret courses, right? Or level 2 as we call it.
Oh, cool.
The way they think and the way the int world's different. I'll tell you that. And it became that was stressful too, trying to make timelines that you couldn't meet because you're relying on other units, right, to do the stuff, to bring the stuff in.
And you got time zones. People forget about that. West and East armies.
Yeah, so it was a challenging time, and that's where I completely lost it, right? Was when I was there. That's when I was done. Complete mental breakdown while I was there. But that was the peak of everything underneath. It just kind of blew up there, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the blow up happened, was there. But that was, you know, by that time I'm talking 36 years in or so too. So there's a lot of stuff kept inside that blew, right? So that's and then I tried to go with one other unit to see if that would work. The Canadian Defence Academy, and my job there was actually I was the training plan manager for the primary leadership course.
Oh wow!
Qual. So
the first kind of not Mod 6 sergeant course, is that it?
Your Master Corporal.
That's right.
For anybody who's going from Corporal to Master Corporal, your first leadership training.
Yeah, neat.
So we had written a new new training plan book, and trying to implement the new course across the forces. So.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. That's really cool. You're part of that.
Yeah, so that was interesting. So
yeah, no doubt frustrating because you're changing everything.
to get all the different elements to buy into everything, right? So
I remember because I just finished the very last mod 6, the very last true fucking cock course, and I remember we were so bitter when we heard the change of the leadership training.
Yeah.
And we're like, what's happening? We did like they're not gonna cock like us? What the fuck?
Yeah, and it changed again from that one too. So now it's a common course.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 modules that's the same no matter what you do. Whatever trade you are, you all do these same 3
That's right.
modules. But the Army still has their 1 extra month.
The 1 extra month. And then because of this change, because you only grade us on 2 IC responsibilities, now the infantry have to add another leadership to get sergeant qualified. And I'm lucky I got my mod 6 and I got my ASA, and that was all, luckily I like hit the last mark for that, because now all my peers had to do the 3.
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool. You're part of that.
Yeah. So that's my career in a nutshell for the last half hour, whatever it was.
Man, that it doesn't matter how long this was. Thank you for sharing. That's huge. And I'm gonna go into, because of the time, I'm gonna go. We'll save the memorial for after, unless you want to. Do you want to explain that? Can we get into that or no?
What, the hockey game?
No, like your private.
Oh, privates. Yeah, we can get into that.
Yeah,
so,
I think this is good, and then we'll go to a happy.
Okay.
We'll talk about this. So let me just pull this up for context for people.
Okay.
Okay, so on November 6th, 1980, Private Perry Potter, signalman serving in Golem Heights, and that's where you were.
Yes.
And you were right there. Heights with the United Nations Disengagement Observation Force, the UNDOF, was killed when an antenna tower on which he was working collapsed. In 1984, the UNDOF memorial was erected in his memory, which I think is amazing. Roger Ladouceur,
Yes.
Roger Ladouceur, a member of the crew who was working on the tower when Private Potter was killed, returned to the Golem Heights in 1984 and was instrumental in the memorial's construction. And I'll just tell everybody what the memorial is made of. The memorial is made of concrete and stone from the Golem Heights region. So really intense, local ground. That's a sacred thing, obviously, immediately as soon as we do that as humans. A pair of Lyman spurs, amazing, is mounted on the front. Over the years, the memorial has been refurbished several times and now honors the memory of all the Canadian soldiers who lost their lives while serving on United Nations peacekeeping missions in the area. And this is where you take over.
That day, the 6th of November, us as a signals squadron at the time that we were in the Golan, were gathering to go say goodbye to our major, who was returning home after his 1-year posting there. Because at that time, the force signal officer was a major, and he was there for a year, so we're getting ready to say goodbye. We're on a road looking at the antenna farm, where they were working on the antennas and getting ready to take them down. So it was, as I mentioned before, like one of those log periodics, so it was mast up and then an antenna going across the top with directions on it, right? So at this time in 1980, we were talking back to Nicosia in Cyprus and Lyre in Germany using these HF comms, okay? Excuse me. So we were there, sitting there watching, getting ready to go away for a good thing, a luncheon, say goodbye to one person and welcome somebody else coming in for the tour, because I'll get on that. In the UNDOF, that United Nations Disengagement Observer Force, it wasn't like some of the other things we do was we go as a unit, you went as individuals, right? So there was 230 Canadians at the time, a lot of support, and a signal squadron. So instead of a unit going, it would be people from all over Canada getting going. So it wasn't like when we went to Cyprus, we would send a whole unit to go for that 6 months, or when we started going to Bosnia and Afghanistan, we would send a whole unit for the 6 to 9 month tour. there it was individuals from all across Canada. So that was the big difference.
Wow, yeah. So you have to build esprit de corps. It's not given.
Yeah. So when they're, well, we were on the edge of the road watching the guys do their maintenance. And two guys were on the tower. One had just gotten off the tower when the tower collapsed. Collapsed. Porter was still attached to the tower. He was not on, he was still belted into the tower when it collapsed. Came down, guy wires, elements of the tower were sticking out of him, covered in blood from head to toe. Doctor came over, worked on him. We asked for an air medevac from the Israeli Defense Force. Came with a jeep instead of a helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
But another good guy I knew quite well, Mike, I just can't remember his last name, a French guy, one of the linemen. He was holding the IV bag and everything while the doctor was working on him. Worked on him for about 45 minutes and then pronounced him dead. But in the long run, probably the best thing probably would have been a vegetable or something that would, with the amount of damage that was to him.
Mm-hmm.
In the long run, it's sad to see, but it's probably the better thing that would have happened. So, needless to say, the day was, that happened around noon or something that day, right? The actual accident. So, it put a damper on the rest of the day for everybody, even the whole camp, right? When something like this happens.
Absolutely.
It took a bit to get him home, because we're in Israel, and at that time, the Hercules aircraft flew out of Damascus, Syria. So it was to get the right paperwork, to get him in an ambulance, to get him over to Damascus to send him home.
Yeah.
So that took a few days to get going. That was my first time seeing something like that, and someone dying from something like that. So that that was my first experience of something traumatic, right?
Yeah, wow.
I remember I was still only 18 at the time.
That's right, perspective.
Really. So it's like some of our young soldiers have gone over to Afghanistan. We're quite young too, right? To the memorial, yes, that memorial was done quite well. Once we closed out of that UN mission in 2005, the memorial was moved here to Kingston, to the Communication Electronics Museum.
Oh wow.
So it's out front there, been refurbished again.
That's it. I see it all the time.
So it's like a pyramid.
Yeah.
With the stones and the spurs on them.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, so it's out in front of the Communication Electronics Museum now.
Oh, that's such an
honor. It was brought back in 2005, 2006. It came back.
To see it. That's really neat.
Yeah,
so check it out. You get to see. This is sad, but check out the memorial and the rocks from.
That's there in front of the museum.
Wow, thank you for sharing. This is important for Kingston to know.
Yeah.
And honor Private.
Kevin Porter.
Kevin Porter, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, definitely honor the fallen, and it's important. This is history.
Mm-hmm.
Before we leave this topic, because this game's really about mental health too, and I think we're revolutionary in our communication of health compared to our forefathers, what I've seen, because I think we've gone to the drink too much, because we're hard men and hard women. But now we're more open, and I really love what our revolution is, which is communication. So how did you process the death? And how did your teammates, and did you talk about it, or did you immediately go to intensity, PT, and then forgetfulness? Kind of. That's what I did for my issues.
Well, for that one there, we after it happened, we went into the theater that afternoon and had discussions about it, what had gone on, and of course, what all activities the rest of the day was canceled, right? I think at that time, because the age I was, it took me a long time to process it, and it was one of those things that got in there, put it in that little box in the back of your head somewheres, and comes out many years later.
Wow.
With all the other things that I had seen. You know, because while I was there, I saw public hangings in Damascus. I've seen people, someone just literally pulled out of a car and beaten the living crap out of and told to go the other direction because the policeman didn't like his look.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a local scared to death because somebody had said something, and the police were coming after him. He did something against the dad, right? Or said something. May have, may not, but you could see the terror,
Wow.
the terror in the man's face. And so those things were okay. I saw them, compartmented them, and I think that's when everything that was part of my everything coming black exploding about 4 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
All came back at once.
Wow.
So in that time, yeah, it's
Darkness.
isolated myself, you know, maybe drank some more. As you can tell, I'm not a gym guy. So I like playing sports, but yeah, so that's probably how I dealt with that. A lot of it was still suck it up, buttercup, and put it away, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Until it finally exploded about 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard, and
Mm-hmm.
everything involved with that really resonates with me. And I'm lucky because I don't have as many years,
Yeah.
and I was able. Luckily, my snapping point happened sooner.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, and that's why I really respect and thank you everybody that serves so long.
Yeah.
There's so much, and I hope perspectives are being understood. That's the point of this, and I keep bringing that up. So, thank you for sharing. Is there anything else you personally want to bring up on this before I move on to my next question?
No, that's good. Like,
Cool. Thank you.
it was a dramatic day. It was nice. Like when I went back in '90 and saw the memorial for the first time, I know it was built before, right? So I was there in '80. My next tour of the Golan was '90. So in that meantime, that had been built, and it was nice to see,
Wow.
right? So
Was it in the same? Was it on base or was it in the same spot his tower fell?
no, it was in. By that time, we were no longer doing HF comms back to Canada and Germany.
Okay.
So that area where the antenna farm had became something else, like transport, their parking lot, built the ball diamond, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So where that antenna farm was no longer there. So when you first come onto the camp, there was pavement, and you had headquarters on one side, and I think it was the message center, the post office, and all on the other side. And it was right there underneath a tree, where we would do our parades for medals. Like when we did the medal parades, it was right there.
That's right.
And that was the monument we'd use for Remembrance Day too, when I was there for Remembrance Day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I'm gonna move. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna move
Okay.
on to the next question. So we hit the mentors. It's really nice. I'm gonna move on to how is your transition out of the military? What piece of advice can you give to a man or woman getting out of the military and becoming a civilian? And then I'm going to lead into the finisher and conclusion. As
Yeah.
you're saying this, what do you hope to feel from the hockey game, and what do you hope the civilians take from just seeing hopefully your joy on the ice?
Yeah.
So that's my last comments to you. I let you take over.
My thing with transition and going from military to civilian, especially if we're doing it so long, is I actually took a conscious decision 10 or 15 years ago to start doing activities outside of the military, start meeting people outside. Because even though I only recently retired, I'd really thought about it a long time ago.
Cool.
Like originally I was only going to do 20 years, maybe 25 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Divorce happens, you got to stay around longer, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I made a conscious decision to try to implement myself in the civilian side of things, meet civilian people, do civilian activities, and instead of just
Progressive.
making myself totally within the military, nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And I think that is big in your transition. Is there's people I've known, that's all they know is the military. They've done their 25 years or whatever, or being medically released, and they got nothing out there on the street to help them, because they don't have any civilian friends, acquaintances, or contacts for anything. So that is huge to me, is make sure you have something out there that isn't not associated with the military, but never give up on your brothers and sisters in arms either.
That's right.
That's important too, but I think it's good when you're transitioning to have the both.
Yeah.
So
I love that advice.
That helped me a lot.
Very unique, and you're pretty advanced. I'm gonna say that's incredible, because generally like you said, you shut yourself away, and to go out in the civilian is brave.
Yeah.
Wow. Even as a current member, I think that's amazing.
Yeah. So I got involved in activities. You won't believe the way I look now, but I used to run a lot and cycle, right? So done a couple of marathons, some half marathons, and duathlons and stuff like that. Until I got hurt myself about 5 years ago, and then I kind of took up golfing. So
that's good too.
But so so I was quite active, and that's where I met a lot of these people by doing running and cycling and that, and it's people I still hang with today, and that, I'm talking 10, 15 years ago,
Awesome.
and I still hang around with a lot of them today.
Amazing.
So it is good, right? That's one thing. I was also lucky. Yes, I was medically released, but it was a little bit more on my terms than not. Cause, you get people that want to stay, but they can't because they can't.
It's too much.
It's just they can't. I was at the end of my career where I had stuff blow up, so I was able to be medically released, but I was at the end. And so I was kind of lucky that way, where a lot of it was on my terms. So, I was able to get the date I wanted to release at. I was able to do my vocational rehab to where I wanted it and when I wanted to do it. So I was kind of lucky that way.
Absolutely, yeah. And and you're smart enough too, because I'm going to speak on myself. Transition. I'm a poor reader. I'm a true infantry at heart. Like the base recruiter grabs me because I don't have the education, right?
Yeah.
So when I got out, I had to learn to be more proactive in learning reading skills, writing skills, to catch up.
Yeah. So so there's days I find it hard because I'm fairly new. I've only been out since the 1st of July. So it's still fairly new.
Yes, 100%.
So it's still fairly new to me for being, okay, I got nowhere to go today. I'm not responsible to go anywhere. I'm not responsible to anybody, right? So it's a little bit different because, yes, I'm taking retirement in full for right now. Maybe in a year's time, I might want to do something, but right now it's me time.
Good. Oh my God.
It's me time.
So happy to hear that. Thank you.
It's me time at the moment. Maybe next summer will be different, right? But right now it's me time.
Woohoo! And you deserve it full on.
And because of meeting civilian people and that, as most of you know, Arthur owns a gym here in town that he lets us people with post-traumatic or disorder use for a Sunday evening get-together.
That's right, 7 to 9.
So I got to meet civilian people through that and been going to that for the last, I think since May. And it's really appreciated that you give us that space.
Yeah, and that's forever and ever.
Yeah, and I've met some great people through there. And it's different to see the first responders, just the military people, right? Seeing the firefighters, the policemen, and their paramedics, what they're dealing with compared to what we have. Because you guys there in the military, if you're still in, it's the amount of resources that we have to help you out is phenomenal, and take them.
Take them. And what Daryl's saying here absolutely is they don't have what we have.
Yeah.
They do not. We are very lucky. I, as a young man, was treated with respect and dignity, and I have post-traumatic stress disorder, moral PTSD from Afghanistan, and I had caring warrants and caring people that helped me out. Our friends from group, no names, no pack drills, their units, not even units, their organizations are cruel to them and forgetful of them and are too harsh on them. And when I'm ready and get permission, I'll call out those bad companies and those bad organizations that treat people poorly, but I won't do that without permission, so we'll leave that. So,
Yeah, I'll leave that, yes.
Yeah.
But unbelievable amount of resources that we can get while you're still serving. And some of these resources are thousands and thousands of dollars to get on these week-long courses or whatever, just to me, tremendously beneficial.
Wow, well, awesome. Thank you for sharing. Mental health, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's,
Take advantage of the MUR. Even if we don't go on tours, go to the MUR and get your head checked.
Yeah.
Even if you aren't on training and you're in platoon and you notice yourself going to the pub every night and you're staying to 3 in the morning, go get your head checked. Use our resources that the Queen pays for.
Because it's not out there in civilian side the same way. Not at all. So that's kind of like what I've got for transition-wise. Keep your brothers and sisters in mind, but look at civilian stuff too, so you're not completely blinded and not know what to do because there's nothing around you you're not used to.
Wow, thank you. Great advice. Really is.
On to our hockey game that we're doing on the 28th of October against the Montreal alumni. We had our first practice last week. Met some awesome people. We had a great time on the ice. Even though we're from all different areas, no heartache, a lot of laughter, you know, and just going and having a good time. And seeing that, you know, with some people that are definitely in a lot worse place than I am. And it was great, and I'm looking forward to the game. Hopefully, you know, we don't get our butts kicked too bad.
No way, Jose. We're winning. We're winning.
And I'm looking forward to see how we're getting people all across Canada to come to play the game. It's not just people from Kingston. It's not just soldiers and veterans from Kingston is playing. They're coming from across Canada to play. I know one of the furthest guys is Calgary that's coming here to play.
Wow.
So this is how much it means to them to play this type of game. Morale booster. You're playing against some alumni and raising awesome money for some great causes. The main one is the Portraits of Honor, where the lady does all the painting, of all the individuals that were killed in Afghanistan and giving it to the parents. They're going to be doing a few of those presentations at the game that day. The Quilts of Honor, the Quilts of Valor, they're going to be giving a couple of those out who people have not gotten one of theirs. So you're going to see some traditions if you come. The game's going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be a blast. We're just out there to have fun and raise a good amount of money for all the veterans that could use the money and the help that they can get.
That's right. Yeah. Cool. Any closing remarks, personal remarks?
Thank you for this time. I deal with depression and anxiety. I was up and down all day with the anxiety, trying to see how this was going to be. I almost called Arthur and told him I wasn't going to come, because that's the way the anxiety and depression can go.
I was prepared for that.
So,
I understand.
Yeah, I hope this goes well. I thank Arthur for doing this. Also thank him for sponsoring our hockey game, giving us the use of his gym on Sunday nights. He's an awesome individual, him and his wife. That's the way they support what we're trying to do and help with the mental health people.
Thank you.
And come out and buy tickets. Support our game.
All right. So thank you very much, Daryl. Much respect for you and your entire career.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. And to the HAF listeners out there, I'm selling tickets at the Iron King, Building 625, Unit 1 of the Iron King for $10. And Kerri has been super generous. We're sponsors, and we're just trying to make this the best event possible, because I want the gals and the guys in blue and green and just blue and green really.
Black and white with the
black
navy.
And white. That's right.
Whatever that color the navy wears.
That's right. And all those that serve, every one of them, we're going to build a huge community. We're connecting a lot of communities on this event, and I just really want that to happen, so families know that they're not alone, and the sacrifice isn't in vain, and the civilians out there that you can see, hardworking veterans, police officers, corrections officers, and servicemen and women who are going to progress outside of their service jobs and give you just a great community, because they give a shit about everything, because they sacrificed everything for it. So there's a lot of appreciation. This is a shout out to just Project Trauma Support, Kerri, for all your organization. We're going to do Mark Fidelas from SBD. Shout out to you. Shout out to Hard as Fuck Apparel and Printing Co. Shout out to the gym. Check out www.ironking voxltd.com. And that's it. One family, one community. Let's make this world a little bit better. Thank you. Boom, done.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about it?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
10. I think there's a lot of knowledge. How long is this?
I don't know.
Oh, I'll look right here.